Welcome to week 6 of Bible Studies for Life. Continuing in the book of John. It's actually our last week in the book of John. Next week we go to a passage in Matthew to talk about the resurrection, Easter Sunday. This week we're going to finish with this discussions in chapter 16 that Jesus is having with his disciples. It's really an interesting passage and one that some things have stood out to me in this I think you're going to like. Before we get into it, be sure and subscribe to the channel, like, share it with others, comment on it. Let me know how God's using this in your life. We appreciate all that interaction we can get. I'll reply to every comment you make. So we appreciate all that you give us. Okay, let's look. John 16. Jesus knew they wanted to ask him, and so he said to them, and some things, Jesus has a knowledge because he's God in the flesh, but some things I think he just knows because he knows them, because he's been with them for 3 years and he knows them. Almost like, somebody wants to ask something, you know what they want to ask, and that's, I don't know. But anyway, he says, "Are you asking one another about what I said? A little while and you will not see me. Again, a little while and you will see me. Truly I tell you, you will weep and mourn, but the world will rejoice. You will become sorrowful, but your sorrow will turn to joy." Okay. Jesus knew that he had said something here. A little while you'll see me again. A little while and you won't see me, and a little while and you'll see me again. This statement that he'd made, he knew it puzzled them, that they didn't understand it. It seemed cryptic to them. In a little while you're not going to see me, but then a little while after that you will see me. It's almost like, what are you talking about? What does that mean? And he says, I know that's going to happen. And so that was kind of his cryptic way of telling them, I'm fixing to go to the cross, and then I'm going to die and I'm going to be buried, but then I'm going to rise up from the dead, right? Clearly that's what we know from our side. We know that, right? From this side, we know the history, we know the story. And so we understand what he's talking about. But in the midst of it, they had no clue. They just didn't get it. And they're talking about it, and he knows they're talking about it with one another. And so now he starts to unpack that a little bit for them, and it's not what they would like to hear, I think. Truly, I tell you, you will weep and mourn, but the world will rejoice. You will become sorrowful. Boy, well, this isn't what I wanted to hear. This is not good news. This is not a happy feeling. We're going to weep and we're going to mourn. We're going to be sorrowful. These are words that are not, you're going to feel lonely. They're not, you're going to have a bad day. These are words of deep brokenheartedness, strong emotions that are going to come out of them. They're going to weep and they're going to mourn. They're going to be full of sorrow. So this is going to happen. And the worst part about this, maybe at the moment, is the world is going to rejoice. You're going to be very sad, but everybody else is going to be happy. Wow. Sometimes it's difficult for us to go through hard times, but what might make it even more difficult if we knew that while we were going through difficulty because of a circumstance, everyone else was happy because of the exact same circumstance. And they were joyful because of it. They were glad that it happened, and while it broke us, it was the worst thing that we could ever imagine could happen to us. It made everybody else overjoyed. They were all extremely happy, and that's what he's saying is going to happen. You're going to weep and mourn, and everybody else is going to rejoice. The world's going to rejoice because the world's going to think we won, right? We conquered, right? He says, but your sorrow will turn to joy. It will turn. Now, there's promise here. There's hope, and yet it's still cryptic. When a woman is in labor, she has pain because her time has come. But when she has given birth to a child, she no longer remembers the suffering because of the joy that a person has been born into the world. Okay, so Jesus says, let me see if I can give you an example from the world, right? And he talks about pregnancy, and when a woman is pregnant and then she goes into labor, this is hard, this is painful, this is horrendous, and this is the worst pain you can go through physically, he says. But and women will say, I'll never do this again, but then they have the baby, and afterwards, right, they don't remember that suffering because they have such great joy in the child that's born, right, that brings such joy that they forget all this suffering. Otherwise families would never have more than one child. We know this is true. because that's if you're a second child or a third or a fourth or a fifth or however many down the line, You know this is true, right? That it's horribly painful. It's excruciating. It's the worst thing imaginable. And I'll do it again. I wouldn't say it then, but there comes a point where there's such joy that you forget the sorrow, you forget the pain, right? The suffering you forget. So Jesus says, so you also have sorrow now, but I will see you again. Your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy from you. He says, I know, listen, you're going to be sorrowful now. You're going to be in pain. It's going to hurt. There's going to be a deep, abiding pain in your life. But then I am going to see you again. When I go away, it's going to be extremely difficult for you. It's going to be very hard, and you're going to be brokenhearted. But I will see you again. That death, that grave, is not the end. It's not the end. I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice. And when you get that joy, no one can take that joy from you. No one can steal your joy over the knowledge that you have a relationship with the resurrected Christ. No one can take that. And so Jesus is preparing them here. There's a mental preparation that's taking place. He wants them to understand this is going to happen. It's going to be very difficult. There's a emotional preparation, right? This is going to be very difficult. But I want you to know that on the other side of that, you're going to get a joy that nobody can take. That there is the lady that gives birth, the woman who gives birth, the mother, has great pain and suffering, but that child brings joy that causes all the suffering to fall into the shadows, fade away for her. For the Father himself loves you, because you have loved me and have believed that I came from God. I came from the Father and have come into the world. Again, I am leaving the world and going to the Father. So he's assuring them of God's love for him, right? The Father has great love for him. And he's assuring them, you know where I came from. You know that I came from the Father, and I'm going back, right? I'm leaving the world. I'm going to my Father, right? So I love this part. This is great. His disciples said, look, now you're speaking plainly and not using any figurative language. So, okay, we get it. We get it. We understand now. You're talking more plain to us. We've got this figured out, right? So now we know that you know everything and don't need anyone to question you. By this, we believe that you came from God. We get it. We see. So, I don't know. They think a light has come on for them. Oh, okay. I get it. You're going to leave. You're going to go to the Father, and then we're going to get joy, and that's going to be great. We'll see you again. You'll come back some point in time. So they think, okay, now we believe, right? We believe. By this, we believe you came from God, because you know everything. You've got it all figured. You've got us. We're good. And I think it's a little bit of false bravado, maybe, or maybe it's a false confidence, because thinking, okay, well, yeah, then we don't have to be sad, and we won't be sad then. Okay, look what Jesus says. Jesus responded to them. Do you now believe? I just think this is a little bit of a challenge. He's given them a great challenge. Oh, so now you believe. Now it's all easy, right? He says, indeed, an hour is coming and has come when each of you will be scattered to his own home, and you will leave me alone. Yet I am not alone, because the Father's with me. I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. You will have suffering in this world. Be courageous. I have conquered the world. Okay. He says, oh, so now you believe, right? Well, let me tell you something. Let me just lay this out flat, right? There's going to come this time when you're going to get scattered. We're going to walk away. You're all going to go to your own place and hide. You're going to be so scared, right? And you're going to leave me alone. Now, remember it was Jesus said, I'm going to leave you, but then I'm going to come back. And I think at that point he's talking about his death, right? But here he's telling them, you're going to leave me. And here I think he's talking about the trials and the crucifixion. You're going to leave me. You're going to abandon me. He's talking a little bit about Peter. You're going to deny me, right? Are you now so confident? And, oh, now we got it. Yeah. No. Listen, this is going to happen, and you're going to have brokenness and be brokenhearted. You're going to be scattered to your own home. He says, but I'm not alone, because the Father's with me. I'm not worried. The Father's with me. I've told you these things so that you may have peace. You will have suffering in this world. Be courageous. He says, I'm trying to tell you this so that you afterward will gain an understanding, I think, but if you could, in the middle of it, gain some understanding, that would be wonderful, right? If you could have some confidence in the midst of this, that would be great. But I want you to know that you're going to have suffering. You're going to suffer in this world. Be courageous, because I've conquered the world. The world's going to get hard. The world's going to be difficult. The world's going to challenge you. Be courageous. You're going to suffer. You're going to go through difficulty. You're going to be brokenhearted. Be courageous. I've conquered the world. Jesus says, I've won this battle. Now, he's saying this before the cross. This is not a post-resurrection appearance. This is a pre-crucifixion discussion. I've conquered the world. I have conquered. Not I will conquer. I have conquered. I have victory already. I have victory already. So be courageous. Listen, no matter where we go, what we go through and what happens to us, we need to know that the Lord has won this victory already. He has already conquered the world. And however you may suffer and whatever pain you may go through, the Lord has already won a victory, complete and total, over the world. It's already happened. Well, I hope that helps as you study, as you prepare to teach. Thanks so much for venturing out to be a teacher. I appreciate all of you that do that. I gave you a couple of questions that you may want to think about asking in your class, and just think about in answering yourself, right? But anyway, appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, like, comment, share it with others. This next week is a combined lesson between the two, Explore the Bible and Bible Studies for Life, because we have the same passage in the two, so there'll just be the one video next week. All right, we'll see you then.